let's talk about Godzilla. But not the movies, cause these get copyright claimed. So let's talk about the video games instead. Specifically, there was a trilogy of games made by a company called Pipeworks, who released their first real game in 2002, and it was called
Godzilla, destroy all monsters, melee.
It's about being a Godzilla monster fighting other Godzilla monsters. Because aliens called the Vortech have invaded Earth and taken control of all the other monsters except for the one that you play.
We have come to seize control of your planet and plunder its resources for our own purposes. It's what we do. That is all. Am I still on? Oh. Well, we now return you to whatever it was you were doing. Idiots.
Wow, that's the most Ratchet & Clank thing I've ever seen outside of Ratchet & Clank. This game actually has a fair amount of complexity for just being a brawler, or at least I think it does, but I'm no fighting game expert. Every character has a punch button, a kick button, and a fierce button that usually uses the notable thing that the monster has. Godzilla uses his tail, Mechagodzilla uses its plasma cannon, Destroyer uses his horn katana, Rodan uses his ramming skills. Each button can be combined with a direction to get a different move. The direction you press is usually reflected in the attack, but not always. Up punch usually gives some kind of slam, and down kick usually gives you this little stomp that makes the recipient hold their foot and hop around in pain. There's a block button, of course, but there's also block low, which is more credit than I probably would have thought to give this game. To counter blocks, there's grabs, which can lead to 3 different types of throw when you pick your enemy up. I think these are always fun to watch, and I guess the computer does too, because it will throw the heck out of you all the time. You can also pick up glowing buildings and hurl them at your enemies. To counter grab, there's jump? I mean, it makes sense when I say it, but it looks really awkward in game in my opinion. Some monsters can also fly when you hold the jump button, but everyone except for Rodan flies so slowly that it doesn't even seem like it's worthwhile. Especially when flying drains your energy meter. The main purpose of the energy meter is to use your monster's beam attack, a projectile that can be charged from light tickle to destroy 25% of your health bar. Some monsters have other ways to spend energy. Megalon digs, Gigan teleports, but that's pretty much all the mechanics. 3 attack buttons, 2 block buttons, throw, jump, and... Wait, no, I lied. There's one more thing. There are power-ups that appear on the map randomly. They're pretty standard for the most part, health, energy, but one of them gives you... When you're in... Your attacks are stronger and you can do your ultimate move. This ranges from actually doing half of someone's health to, Damn it, Rodan. Why you gotta be this way? So that's the mechanics. So how is it? Well, after not playing this game for 15 years, I can say that it's okay. The general fights are fairly fun, but there's not really much content here. There's Versus Mode, which is just best of 3 1v1 with the monsters you have unlocked. Adventure, where you fight up to 7 monsters up to a final boss. And Survival Mode, where you just fight until you die. There are 3 other modes, but you can only play them if you have at least 2 players, so... Adventure mode is probably the best out of the 3 single-player modes, but man, do the final few fights get tough. Like, the computer is probably reading my inputs kind of tough. Damn, what difficulty is this? Easy? Oh. The final level sends you to fight the Vortex's ultimate weapon, Mechagodzilla, and... Hey, wait a second. Let me go Godzilla nerd real quick. The Mechagodzilla that you fight in this game is based off Mechagodzilla 2, which was built by humans to defend against Godzilla. Alright, so they just changed it to be a bad guy, right? I mean, yeah. But the original Mechagodzilla was some alien's ultimate weapon to take over the world. So why didn't they use that one? The only reason I can think of is because the one they used is newer, from 1993, and the original was from 1974. but they included Megalon, who only had one appearance in 1973. I guess his movie got kind of popular though, because they covered it on Mystery Science Theater 3000. Okay, I'm getting off track here. Other than that, the cast is pretty well represented. Most of the obvious includes are there: Godzilla, Anguirus, King Ghidorah, Moth... Oh, that's really the only one that's obviously missing. Most of the Godzilla monsters are one-off villains, and the recurring ones are mostly here. You actually only start with 3 characters and have to unlock the other 8. But this is back in the gaming era where cheat codes didn't cost money, so thank God for that. There are a few things in the gameplay that seem like questionable design decisions though. When characters get sent flying, they get sent flying. And when you're down on the ground, you are not protected at all. Vertical attacks that hit people on the ground are absurdly abusable. I beat Adventure by basically spamming Destoroya's vertical horn katana move until I won, and it just worked. The beam attacks are really good too. You can't block them. The only way to stop a beam attack is to do your own beam attack quicker than they do. It's almost like they should have had some sort of beam clash when that happened. Oh yeah! After Pipeworks released Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, they released an Xbox version in the following year, 2003, and then started work on a sequel, Godzilla Save the Earth, which was released in 2004 for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox.
Godzilla!
In this game, the Vortech are back, with an army of new monsters and their new ultimate weapon,
Space Godzilla.
This is a very iterative sequel, keeping most of what was in Destroy All Monsters but improving it. Most obviously, the game added 7 new monsters: Mothra, Baragon, Mogera, Jet Jaguar, Megaguirus, Space Godzilla, and Kiryu, or Mechagodzilla 3, but still no Mechagodzilla 1. There's a kinda weird thing though, because Save the Earth was the name of the theme song to Godzilla vs. Hedorah, but Hedorah is not in this game. Is probably just a coincidence. There are a lot of little tweaks, like taking half damage when you're on the ground, or actually showing that each monster does certain types of damage and has certain resistances. When you go flying, it's a much more reasonable distance, and picking buildings up is a little less finicky. There's also beam battles! All of these improvements really make this a more enjoyable game, which is kind of sad because the game still lacks basically any new content mode-wise. Every mode that was in the last game is back, and hey, you can even play the 4-player mode with bots this time. But the game can barely handle it, and it's a weird point-based thing and not just a 4-player brawl, so bleh. It's really surprising that there's no movie mode where you get to play the matchups from the movies. Apparently though, this game was supposed to have a greatly expanded story mode, but it had to be cut from the game. There were also supposed to be more monsters. One of them, Biolante, was actually completed but had to be cut due to a licensing issue. Feels bad, man. These cuts most likely happened so that the game could have its release coincide with the movie Godzilla Final Wars, which there's concept art and screenshots as unlockables in Save the Earth. Like this Monster X concept art. This guy should have been in the game. There is one new mode, Challenges. Now this sounds like some challenge fights, but these are actually just minigames. And they aren't very fun minigames either. Stuff like throw the rampaging monsters into pins, or play basketball, or destroy a monster replicator then kill the monster. Uh-oh. I think I broke this one. Buddy? Are you okay? I think they really knocked it out of the park with all the new characters in this game though. Each one has some unique mechanic or playstyle. Mechagodzilla 3 was actually added in the Xbox version of Destroy All Monsters Melee, so I'm not counting him. Baragon is really fast and doesn't have a typical beam weapon, just little flame bursts that can be used on the move and in between attack strings. Mothra starts off as a crappy larva with like half a moveset where you can attempt to get some damage on your opponent. At any time, you can turn into Adult Mothra, and it refills your entire health bar, but she's still pretty fragile, and that's pretty accurate considering she dies in pretty much every movie she's ever been in. Megaguirus doesn't regenerate energy passively like most characters. The only way she can recover energy is hitting her opponent with her tail, and one of her throws. She also doesn't have a beam weapon, but she can actually steal her opponent's beam weapon. She also has this thing where she goes freaking crazy. Between her and Mothra, there are actually more fast flyers than just Rodan. Mogera, I'm convinced, is a troll character. It has almost no ability to fight in melee. It's pretty fast and has a lot of ranged attacks though, but most of them cost energy. But Mogera doesn't give great energy. The only way it can get energy back is to block other monsters' beam weapons, or to shut down completely and be defenseless. The range attacks aren't even that good. This thing's about as useful as it was in the movie it was in. Jet Jaguar doesn't have a normal beam attack, and instead uses his energy to grow giant or tiny and bicycle kick people. And finally, Space Godzilla, the new big bad, regenerates energy very slowly, but he can create these crystals that increase his regeneration to a pretty ridiculous level. He can also summon attacks from the crystals that do some pretty good work. It's kind of funny though, because the crystal attacks can hit him too. Space Godzilla uses energy for a lot of attacks, so he really needs to hang around them crystals. And yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say about this one. It's the first one, but better. So I think we're gonna move on to the final game in this trilogy, Godzilla Unleashed, and oh boy. After doing some other stuff for a few years, Pipeworks came back and released Godzilla Unleashed in 2007. This was set to be the biggest Godzilla game ever. More monsters, story mode, new mechanics, pretty much any and all fan service any Big G fan wanted. I was so hyped. And it went poorly. The number one issue in this game is that Pipeworks decided that shaking a stick was better than pressing a button. They decided it was so much better that they removed the ability to press a button at all. Yes, this was a Wii game with unavoidable motion controls that were no good. So now in this game, instead of pressing down and attack to do your down attack, you have to move the Wiimote down, and in the middle of moving it down, you have to press the attack button. This did not work well. Most of the time you got the wrong attack, or sometimes you just got nothing. Supposedly, the devs had spent a considerable amount of time trying to fine-tune the motion controls, but I don't know if it shows in the final product. On top of unresponsive bad controls, the game is marred by the weirdest glitches and omissions. These include, but are not limited to, Kiryu's Absolute Zero cannon always firing downward for no reason. Megaguirus cannot auto-aim any stolen beam weapons she has, but she can fire them forever if she has more than one energy cell. King Caesar charges energy slower than any other monster because he was supposed to be able to absorb energy from other monsters' beam attacks, but they didn't have time to add that. The game changed up a few mechanics. Energy no longer passively regens and you had to actively charge it, but now your health passively regened, but not when you were charging your energy. Energy was split into 4 blocks that you must fully charge at least one, or else the charging would result in nothing. Health was also split into several cells, and to fully destroy a health cell, you had to do a heavy attack. Jabs and energy attacks did not break health cells, unless you were Mechagodzilla 1, yo, they finally added him, or 2. For some reason, they could kill health cells. Instead of throwing these bugs out, they decided to start tossing some game mechanics instead. The other games had too many blocks? Well, let's get rid of one. Actually, let's get rid of them both. Now you can only do this weird brace thing that kinda defends against some things but doesn't defend you against others. Combos? Who needs them? Throw them in the trash. Rolling on the ground? Nah, just hang out where you fell, have a nice picnic. Rage attacks? No, except some monsters randomly get to keep theirs and just use it whenever they have 4 blocks of energy. The game did have some positives though. The original music for this game is by far the most memorable. Well, except for the 3 monsters that didn't get a theme at all and fought in awkward silence. They expanded the roster even more, including probably my favorite monster, Biollante, who was the one cut from Save the Earth even though she was finished. They also added King Caesar, even though his gimmick was cut, Mechagodzilla 1, who's a clone of Mechagodzilla 2, Godzilla 1954, who's a clone of Godzilla 1990s, who in this game had a moveset more fitting for the 60s-70s Godzilla, Titanosaurus, who's kinda alright, and Varan, who had a 10-second cameo in one Godzilla movie. Also joining in this train wreck are 2 original monsters, Crystalac and Obsidius. They're both kinda lame to be honest. Obsidius makes stock footage noises, that's mega lame. He was also chosen by an IGN poll, which also included this lightning bug. How do you tell me that this dumb generic rock won over that cyborg lightning neon genesis ass piece of bug? I really can't undersell how bad these controls are. I'm running the game through a modded emulation that's supposed to make the controls more palatable, but they're still real bad. I should have just tried to play it on the Wii, because trying to emulate Wii controls is really bad. Damn. This game also has a story mode, finally, but I already don't want to play this anymore. If my memory is right, it goes like this. Big, powerful crystals appear. Everyone wants them. Vortech come back and try to take them. Space Godzilla and his faction of mutants want to take them. Good monsters want to take them. And people and robots want to take them. You fight for whatever side you pick until you win all the big crystals. Yay! So Lainz, why are you playing the Wii version when there's a PS2 version that has actual controls? Nope. That's just Save the Earth with the stages from the Wii version of the game, half the frame rate, and 2 new monsters that are literally reskins of existing monsters. I don't know what happened to this game on either version, but it makes me pretty sad, and more importantly, it makes me wonder why I played it so much as a kid. Any of you guys play any bad video games for way too much time as a kid? Let me know in the comments. Also,
smash a like now. Do it.
After Godzilla Unleashed came out in 2007, it would be the last real Godzilla game to come out for another 7 years until the PS4 game came out in 2014, and that one seems to suck too. We could really use a Save the Earth Part 2. It doesn't need to be the most competitive game ever, but it really doesn't need to be Unleashed Part 2. Save the Earth is definitely still worth the play if you have a PS2 or OG Xbox or emulation box. If it had more content, it would be a solid 8 out of 10, at least for me. But, I'm kinda biased. Anyway, thanks for watching me go on this nostalgic journey of the Pipeworks Godzilla Trilogy. I'll be doing some more new game videos, I'll be doing some more old game videos, so hit that bell to stay alert and tell me what you want to see in the comments. 2 Lainz, out!